Next in the sea climates, let's jump to the one in pale yellow here, CFB and CFC. The name for this climate type is called Marine West Coast. So let's check that out. Where does it tend to be located? Well, on the west coast, and it's a coastal climate. We can see that it's located just poleward of the Mediterranean climate in general on all the continents. In Australia and South Africa, it kind of gets wrapped around a little bit, but in general, it's more poleward than the Mediterranean climates on the west sides of the continents. So it's usually about 40 to 65 degrees north and south latitude, again, directly poleward of the Mediterranean climates. Notice the climate code here. The second letter is F. That indicates year-round precipitation. In part, this year-round precipitation is due to its coastal location and the fact that it's year-round in the westerlies. It's not influenced by the subtropical high. So we get year-round moisture in our marine west coast climates. If you're familiar with Seattle and Vancouver and this area of the United States and into Canada, you can kind of get a picture of what it might look like with that year-round moisture. Indeed, it can support dense forests, and it tends to be wet and rainy year-round. If you've ever visited Northern Europe, it would look very much the same and have similar weather. Another characteristic of this climate type is that it has mild temperatures. That's due to the ocean influence because it's coastal. So you can see here that the third letter, the summer temperatures, are B and C. That's for warm or cool. We don't have dramatic hot or cold temperatures here because of the coastal influence. Another interesting fact is that of the mid-latitude climates, the marine west coast is the wettest of the three. And that's maybe intuitive for you if you have an understanding of what North America is like here on the west coast. We know that we don't get much rainfall, but up in Portland, Seattle, Vancouver, and up into Alaska, they certainly do. Year-round rainfall, mild temperatures. When we look at the climographs, we again notice this mild hill here. It's not an extreme variation from summer to winter, even up in Alaska. And this again is due to the coastal influences. The coast of Alaska is a marine west coast climate. The interior would be something different. So we have a mild temperature variation from summer to winter, and as you can see, we have year-round precipitation, and quite a bit of it. And that year-round precipitation, well, it can support dense forests. We sometimes refer to these as temperate rainforest. They're so lush, green, and wet. Lastly, for the mid-latitude climates, let's go to the center of our country and to the east coast. The orange here, represented down here, is called humid subtropical. Humid subtropical. So yes, it's outside of the tropics. So that's the subtropical, and it's quite humid, as we'll discuss here in a bit. First, let's look at its location, though. It tends to be on the eastern side of continents, between about 15 and 40 degrees north and south latitude. It can reach quite a ways inland as well. In terms of characteristics, you can see that it either has year-round moisture or a winter dry season. Now what that means is that the summers are wet. And not only that, if we look at the third letter, the summers are hot or warm. So let's put that together. We have wet and hot or warm. That leads us to very humid conditions, and hence the name, humid subtropical. This humid subtropical climate has hotter temperatures than the other mid-latitude climates due to the influence of the continental interiors. even the east coast, which maybe you would think is coastal and would be milder, is influenced by the interiors because the westerlies bring that hot interior air to the coast. That happens in the United States and also happens over here in Asia and elsewhere. Also in the center of the continents here, we have convective uplift that occurs in the summertime. As the temperatures get very, very hot, the air expands and rises, and we can have thunderstorms. And those storms are brought towards the east by the westerlies, bringing us a lot of moisture. Further, because of the warm water currents here, remember in the northern hemisphere, our ocean basins have a clockwise circulation pattern, so we have warm waters coming in here to add humidity as well. And not only that, as we've learned lately, these waters can also bring in hurricanes, which add an enormous amount of water. So let's look at the climograph. Again, you see the mild hump that we've come to know for the mild mid-latitude climates, the sea climates. And in this case, we can see that in the summertime, there is precipitation. This is in the northern hemisphere, in China. And over here in the southern hemisphere, where their summer is on these outer 6 months, we can see that they have precipitation as well. In this case, they have actually year-round moisture, whereas here in this location in China, they had a winter dry season, but they still had summer moisture and hot conditions leading to that high humidity that is characteristic of humid subtropical climates. And because of that year-round precipitation, we're able to support forests. And indeed, in the eastern part of the United States, we have a lot of forestry that occurs. Table 8.4 in your textbook gives a good summary of the 3 different subtypes of the sea climates. And then, as always, I encourage you to pause the video and answer a few questions just to check your understanding of the sea climates.